Hi friends, it's Alejandra. Welcome to another Bite-Sized Book Chats. Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite books that I've recently read, and it is One of Us is Lying by Karen McManus. So this is not a typical read for me. I'm very into YA romance, something contemporary, something sweet. I also like something with a little bit of sci-fi or fantasy. This one is very different. This one would be like a mystery thriller book, which was nice for me to feel like I was stepping out of my comfort zone, and like I said, just very different. So we have 5 students that have seemingly nothing in common except for 2 of them who are friends, and they all just kind of accidentally end up in detention together, and they don't really think much of it, but they all know that they were in there. And it wasn't their fault, and they all thought that was a little weird, but then they go to detention. We have Bronwyn, Addie, Nate, Cooper, and Simon, who are our 5 main characters. And like I said, they go to detention, they're there, then they see something happening outside, they hear a loud crash, they all run to the windows, and then when they come back and try and sit back in their seats, one of them dies. And it's very unexpected, it's tragic, it's horrible for them to witness. So the entire school is very sympathetic, the adults are very sympathetic, they all kind of treat them as victims and witnesses and try and help them as much as they can, giving them support, trying to ask them what they know. The police gets involved because they want to know what happened to the student that died, but they don't really do much beyond that. And then, after a while, they kind of notice that they all had a reason to want the student dead, and they all had a motive, and they all had the opportunity because they were in a room with no other adults, and they were just left unsupervised. So the police then need to find out if all of them were working together, or if one of them killed the student, and then the rest of them just don't know what's going on, or any sort of combination. So they go from being witnesses and being seen as almost, like I said, victims, to being suspects in what turned into a possible murder case. So then what they need to do from there is figure out also amongst themselves who actually killed him, why they killed him, and whether or not they're going to turn somebody into the police, whether or not they believe each other, whether or not they think one of them is lying. And it actually takes several interesting turns. I really, really enjoyed it. If you're into audiobooks, this is also a great audiobook. This is told in 4-person point of view, and the audiobook has 4 different narrators for each of the characters, so it's incredible that way to listen to everybody's point of view, and you as the reader get to see what's going on behind the scenes, who has more information that they're not sharing with the police, things like that, and then watching everybody piece it together and then trying to figure it out yourself along the way. And like I said, it does have several twists and turns, so the actual story itself is great. If you listen to the audiobook or if you read the book, either way, I think you'll find it addicting. This is one of those books where I just could not put it down. I had to keep reading, I had to keep listening, because I had to find out what was happening, and I had to find out if I was maybe right with each of my theories of what might have happened to the students, so it's super interesting. There's also an element of something very contemporary that a lot of people can relate to. One of the things, or one of the ways that the police determined that these 4 students have gone from being witnesses to being suspects is that the student that died was the admin of a Tumblr page that released, or a Tumblr-like page that released gossip about school and about their students. So they never named any students by name, they only used initials, but it's usually pretty obvious who the page is referring to. In theory, the author of the app is also anonymous, but everybody knows who it is. So because everybody knows who it is, they can kind of go back from there, and they find out that there were posts pending about each of the students that happened to be in detention that day. So they need to figure out how those students even knew that there was going to be some gossip released about them when it hadn't even been released yet, and the only person that should know about that is the author. So there's a lot of different twists and turns. Like I said, it's also very modern in the sense that, you know, you're incorporating technology, you're incorporating apps and social media and drama. So I think a lot of people will like this one. If you are not into mysteries and thrillers, I would still suggest giving this one a shot. The one somewhat graphic part for some readers, for some more sensitive readers, might be the scene where the student dies. She does not go into very deep detail, but it does happen, so it is something just to be aware about. But I think even that, she just gives a very brief overview of what happens, not necessarily going in depth, and it's not a very gruesome death, it's actually pretty quick. But I thought sensitive readers should know about that. But I really hope you'll give this a try. It's so good. She actually also has a second book that has secondary characters from this book as the main characters, so I'm looking forward to reading that one and seeing if it's as intense and addicting as this book is, and seeing if, now that I kind of know where McManus likes to take her books and the different twists and turns she likes to give, if maybe I can get a better handle on what might end up happening. So that's kind of a fun game to play when you're reading as well. So I hope you'll pick it up, I hope you enjoy it, and thank you so much for watching. Bye, friends.